'Tis the season to get scammed.
Well, tell you how to avoid those particular holiday issues and blues today on The Undercurrent.
How you doing, Uncle Warren? Merry Christmas. Warren, you're muted.
See, the show was started off great already since you couldn't hear me. Now the show is flawed because you can hear me. That's terrible.
So is Santa's little helper like Mother's little helper?
No, not at all. Last night I spent the night in Monk's Diner after the Festivus show we had last night that Lainey was on. That was fun.
That
good
was
times.
Awesome. That was some good YouTubing.
Yeah, it was good to get everybody out. We had Marcus from the Political Matrix, Kevin from Black Bear News, my buddy Captain Peon, Sleepy Willie Bragg was there. That was a fun time.
We all took turns sleeping with Willie.
We did. And we slept around him and we kept him warm and safe from that evil, cruel world out there. Who else we had on there? Bread and Circuses from Chris from Twitter. Of course, Chuck's Intergalactic UFO show. Chuck was on there. And some more. Was that it? Was that everybody besides you and me? I think that was it. But if I missed anybody, I'm sorry. My brain ain't what it used to be. I'm just one of those people that don't know nothing. But it was fun. It was, we talked about the events of the year and we got our grievances out and it was a good time. So, and Willie really did steal the show last night. It was so good.
It was awesome. Him and his little balls and all that. It was just absolutely a delightful evening for all of us, I think.
I was a little scared because he when he sleeps, he don't move. And I thought maybe his camera had frozen. And then I thought the worst. I'm like, then all of a sudden I heard, and I was like, oh, okay. He's fine.
Just, we were all so stressed out, with all of our various grievances, but then we were able to break into laughter and it was very joyful.
It was. Maybe that was just a cathartic laugh too for a lot of us. I'm glad Willie provided the comic relief. That's for sure. So
yeah, and he was a good sport. He was a lot more better sport than I think I would have been, but he was awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know what, and that's the thing. He knows the drill. If you pass out on the stream, you're fair game. Yeah. I think I've done that before. I may have passed out on my own stream a couple of times. So, I can't fault the man for having having that. Well, the thing is, he works overnight, right? He's an overnight worker, and he had told me when he got on the beginning of the show, he said that he hadn't had his nap that day, and I knew something was going to happen. I knew Willie was probably. I didn't think Willie was going to go full on, Rip Van Winkle. But it was great. It was so much fun. So, and I think we all needed a good laugh, especially after this crappy year that we've had. So, speaking of crappy, we have, of course, our crappy news, and it's not that the quality of it is crap. It's that the substance of it is crap, because we're doing some really dumb stuff here in the world. So let's get to it. So Trump ramps up aggression against Venezuela with seizure of ship not under U.S. sanctions. So he was going for ships under sanction, and now it's just any old ship that's in there. The Trump administration's total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers off the Venezuelan coast was already denounced by critics as an act of war, and the U.S. further escalated its aggression on Saturday by seizing a tanker that is not on a list of vessels under U.S. sanctions. Much like the assassinations of these people in the boats, where they don't have any evidence that they're drug runners, and even if they did, they're in international waters, and it's against the international law to do that. But that doesn't seem to bother this particular administration. U.S. Coast Guard troops led Saturday's seizure of the Centuries, a Panamanian-flagged Chinese-owned oil tanker in the Caribbean Sea after it left Venezuela. The genius Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said on Twitter, the U.S. will continue to pursue the illicit movement of sanctioned oil, even though it was not sanctioned, that is used to fund narco-terrorism in the region. She said, we will find you and we will stop you. On Sunday, an unnamed U.S. official told Reuters that the Coast Guard is in active pursuit of a third tanker near Venezuela. I think they may have gotten that one too. A sanctioned dark fleet vessel that is flying a false flag and under a judicial seizure order. This is almost clownfish school worthy at this point. The Venezuelan government condemned Saturday's seizure as a serious act of international piracy. And that's what they've been doing. They've been provoking Venezuela, trying to get them to do what? To fire the first shot so the United States can say, see, look,
and make things go bang.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that's what's happening? They're trying to intimidate them into making the first move?
I really hope. Yes, I agree with that, and I hope that Venezuela or that nobody else takes the bait at this point. By the way, last week, as you'll recall, we had a follow-up interview with Bill Tilford. The video didn't work. I've put it into the show notes, but I'm also going to put it into chat right now. I put the link in there for anybody who wants to check it out, because we talked a little bit about this. And now, of course, it's just this ongoing story. I'm praying that there are smarter people than those that are running the U.S. right now, and that I think that I'm praying there are smarter people in other parts of the world, and I'm sure there are, which is why they're going to eat our lunch eventually. But it's like they want to blow something up. Somebody wants to blow something up here.
Yeah, it's like they're bringing back the 80s, right? You remember all the 80s movies with car crashes, explosions, and Michael Bay type stuff. Yeah, things go boom. That's pretty. Ooh, pretty. We don't care who's on the other end of it. Ooh, pretty. And it seems like that's, basically Trump was a product of the 80s, right? People knew who Trump was back in the 80s. They knew he was a poor businessman. But somehow he managed to get into, what was it, Home Alone, the first one, or was it Home Alone 2?
I think it was Home Alone 2, and he got his own TV show, and he got into the Pro Wrestling Wall of Fame, or Hall of Fame, which I'm telling everybody right now, if you don't understand pro wrestling, learn about it. Learn what kayfabe is.
Yeah.
Learn what a work is.
And if you're still haven't figured out that wrestling is fake, I'm sorry. The physicality of wrestling is real. They actually do. That's not CGI. They're making those moves and stuff like that, but it's all choreographed. It's all fake. And that's been transferred over into politics now, and that's the way Trump is doing things right now. But
it's a manipulation of the story. It's the script, and it's the way of pushing people's buttons. We call it triggering people these days. That is what pro wrestling is all about. That's how it makes its money. You're seeing this being played out as a psyop in the political sphere. So yeah. I do want to say hello to folks here. Willie Bragg, so glad to see you, friend. We were talking about how we all got a chance to sleep with you yesterday and what fun that was.
Willie, you stole the show last night, but it was so much fun. Willie he didn't sleep the whole time. He actually contributed to the show, but he was Willie, as he said, he'd been up all night working and he didn't get a chance to sleep that day. And I was just appreciative that he showed up at all.
I was, and it was great.
Yeah. Willie could have totally said, you know what? I'm too sleepy. I can't do this, but he showed up, and I appreciate you, Willie. We love you very much. And, congratulations to Willie. He just passed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So congratulations to Willie there. Yeah, I've noticed his channel is starting to It took a while, and I don't think it was so much his fault as it was the algorithm that is the YouTube nightmare. But now it seems like he's finally starting to pick up some momentum. A lot of his videos are getting more views, and that's great. And we love what Willie has to say too. He's a good person with a good heart, and he comes from a good place.
He does.
And
He's one of the good ones.
Yeah, you love to hear from people like that, especially Gen Xers like that.
I do want to say hi to Kate. She's heading on up to meet the science and fire experts up at the park. And I want to say hello and welcome, happy holidays to her. And we've also got CBC voter in the house. Want to say hello and Merry Christmas as well. And thank you all for coming out last night too. That was one heck of a show, but thank you.
'Tis Christmas Eve for sure.
It is.
And don't forget tomorrow, even though the Morning Extra, the new show is on hiatus, we'll have a special Christmas edition tomorrow, hanging out with the families on YouTube and just having a good time, maybe talking about some of the stories over the years. And it should be fun. That'll be same time tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time.
We'll make it happen, Willie Bragg. Yeah, let's get that going, get that scheduled, and I know I want to be there, and so there it is. Yeah.
Meanwhile, in Greenland, more screwy shenanigans are afoot as Denmark to summon U.S. ambassador following Greenland envoy appointment. And you're like, okay, well, what's this? So, they've been threatening to annex Greenland, and it's under Danish control,
right?
And Denmark is like, no dice, precious. That ain't happening. So Denmark said it will summon the U.S. ambassador after Trump's appointment of a special envoy to Greenland. Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen said Monday that he was deeply angered by the appointment of Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as envoy to the autonomous Danish territory, which Trump has several times threatened to annex. Rasmussen said he was particularly disturbed by comments from Landry on accepting the appointment that hailed plans to, quote, make Greenland a part of the U.S. Calling the statement totally unacceptable, he demanded that Washington respect Danish sovereignty and said the Ministry of Foreign Affairs would soon summon the U.S. ambassador for an explanation. The U.S. move also appeared to receive pushback from the European Union, with the EU spokesman Anwar El Anouni saying that preserving Denmark's sovereignty and territorial integrity is essential for the bloc. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa also stressed that the EU stood in full solidarity with Denmark and the people of Greenland. Territorial integrity and sovereignty are fundamental principles of international law. These principles are essential not only for the European Union, but for nations around the world. They both posted on social media. Despite Denmark being a NATO ally, Trump has repeatedly antagonized the Nordic state by threatening to take control of Greenland, which is largely self-governing, but incorporated into Denmark. Trump has insisted that the U.S. needs the resource-rich island for security reasons. He has refused to rule out the use of military force to seize control, noting in March that the U.S. would go as far as we have to. The leaders of both Denmark and Greenland have repeatedly said the huge Arctic island is not for sale and will decide its future.
Okay, why are we picking fights with Denmark?
This reminds me of that movie, I think it was called Canadian Bacon, and it may have been the last movie John Candy was in, where it was the United States, there was a false, they were trying to start a false flag to get into a war with Canada.
Yes.
Right? And the premise was so far-fetched at the time. It's like, who the hell would want to invade Canada? Why would we do that? And you could apply the same thing to Greenland. It's like, okay, yes, they have resources, but a lot of that's buried under, a kilometer of ice, and these ice shelves that are there. It just seems like another Trump distraction to say, look, squirrel, and then I'm going to do this over here.
Did you know that Canada and Denmark are in a long-standing dispute?
Really? I did
There's
not
a
know. Over
disputed
what?
territory. It's I want to say it's an island or something like that, but it's a disputed territory. So what happens is every 6 months, the military sends out an envoy from the respective nation. And what happens is Canada comes in, they pull up the Danish flag, they put the Canadian flag there, and they leave a bottle of Canadian whiskey. And then 6 months later, the Danes show up. They pull out the Canadian flag, put the Danish flag in, and leave a bottle of Danish schnapps.
I think I've heard of that. I've heard it. I didn't know that was the. I didn't know that was the Danish in
It was the
Canada.
Danish and the Canadian. Yeah,
that is yeah. Because I've heard about that. Yeah, they take out the flag and then they put the bottle.
And then they get a bottle so they can drown their sorrows. But I mean, the idea of picking a fight with Denmark.
Yeah, a NATO ally. A NATO ally. Remember,
he doesn't care. He doesn't care. They want to make things go boom. Mm-hmm. I am actually of the opinion they want to make things go boom.
I'd be really interested to find out how they would take Greenland militarily. Right?
Why do we want it? We can't take care of our own forces, resources here. Why the hell do we want Greenland?
It would be like trying to take over Alaska, right? I mean, it's way too cold. The troops there, there's no practical reason. Let's say you're just the greediest person on the planet and you love just things blowing up and everything. First off, there's nothing to blow up there. It's all ice. You're just going to blow up the ice and melt it and probably raise the sea levels. Maybe that's what they want to do. Oh, maybe a Dr. Evil thing where it's like, let's melt all the Greenland ice and flood the world.
For $1 million.
Right. Or a bottle of Danish schnapps. Or a whole case, I guess. Maybe they're there for the schnapps. Who knows? I don't see them doing it. It just seems like a distraction. It seems like they're trying to get people riled up over nothing. And then they sneak all this really, really bad stuff.
Or further isolate us from the rest of the world.
That could be.
If they want to make Americans the pariahs, and that may serve what Donald Trump wants. He wants Americans to be pariahs. He wants us to be stuck here and to not have connections outside this world, and thus the evil overlords can do what they want with us. I really think they're trying to break this down. They're trying to break down the relationships, and they're trying to turn Americans into pariahs.
Well, he's already he's done this in two consecutive terms. Where he's pissed off the EU and told them that they're going to have to pay their way, or not the EU, NATO allies, that they were going to have to pay for their own defense, right?
Yeah, and I'm not a huge NATO person myself, but there's reasons for that, because I don't like the U.S. I should say the U.S. Dominance. And our imperialism. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of this, but not in the same way that this is occurring here. And it's very disturbing. He's threatening to sue the BBC. Again, the UK is one of our greatest allies, and now he's going after Denmark.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is the making we shouldn't have NATO in the first place, right? NATO was a counter to the Soviet Union, and now the Soviet Union has been gone for 30 years, and we still have NATO. Why is that? That's probably a rhetorical question, but for smarter people than me to answer. But it just lends to the thing, going back to what you said. They want things to go boom. And when things go boom, then their buddies in the military industrial complex get paid for such boom booms. So speaking of boom booms in the Pacific, specifically North Korea and Japan, this is some heady stuff right here. North Korea warns Japan not to seek nukes. They're like, don't you do it. North Korea has lashed out at Japan after a senior official reportedly suggested the country needs nuclear weapons In a statement published by state media on Sunday, Pyongyang warned that that allowing Japan to acquire nuclear weapons would result in a great disaster. The remarks come after controversy was sparked last week by a senior advisor to Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, who told reporters that Japan may need to reconsider its post-World War II non-nuclear policy, as reliance on the U.S. nuclear deterrent may no longer be sufficient, as reported by NHK.
I wouldn't rely on us for anything.
We're unreliable. The off-the-record comments described as personal views quickly went viral, raising questions about Tokyo's official position. The Japanese ruling quarters are openly revealing their ambition to possess nuclear weapons, going beyond the red line for a war criminal state, the North Korean Foreign Ministry said in a statement carried by the Korean Central News Agency, KCNA on the West Coast. No, that's not the same KCNA. Is there a KCNA? I don't know. This is not a misstatement or a reckless assertion, but clearly reflects Japan's long-cherished ambition for nuclear armament.
Well, I can't blame them.
Well, I don't know. I think if my country had been bombed with nukes, I'd probably want to stay clear of them.
Well, no, but I mean, I'm saying, look, if you know, everybody talks about nuclear threats. There has, you know, nuclear bombs have been used once in warfare by, conveniently, the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often felt that I understand why that was a concession during World War II, but I can't necessarily blame a country if some other countries have nuclear bombs. Why shouldn't that country have them? I'm not a fan of nuclear bombs. Don't get me. I think it's a horrible and evil and terrible thing that happened there, but I'm not going to blame Japan for saying, hey, you know,
right.
Like
but we don't live in that. We don't live in that region either. So, I mean, if I'm a small country like that, with North Korea and Russia on my doorstep and China on my doorstep, it maybe, yeah, getting nukes would be fine, but I don't think, you know, Japan's already been nuked once.
Again, I'm not a fan of nukes. I can't blame Japan for, you know, wanting some sovereignty in this area.
Right.
In this decision.
I don't understand why it's so critical now, because they think because if North Korea wanted to bomb them, they would have bombed them already. I
don't think North Korea wants to bomb them. I
don't think so either. Yeah, I think there's a, you know, no matter what people say about North Korea, maybe people have actually been there themselves and seen it for themselves. I'll take their word for things, but you know, I think there's some bad stuff going on in North Korea, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as the propaganda from the United States and the West makes it out to be. So, because basically, I think what North Korea they got their nukes so no one would nuke them, or try to invade them. You know, like these other countries that played ball with the United States didn't have nukes. Guess what? You know, your Libyas, who get couped and their leaders, and then they become vassals of the United States. Well, yeah. So I don't blame you. Like, I just think this may be something that may scare their own population more than it does anything else, because they're like, wait, what? We're getting nukes? Why do we need nukes? Why are we getting nukes? You know, that kind of, you know how people think. They'll take one thing and then just go off on a tangent with it and then think the craziest things. Finally, this morning in our riptide of goodness, or if you can call it goodness, we come back here to the United States, Georgia. Sweet Georgia. Georgia's power plan to support potential data center surge with fossil fuel energy faces scrutiny. This guy looks like Willie Bragg. I mean, from last night. Sorry. The state's largest electric utility says it needs to significantly increase its energy capacity to accommodate a potential wave of data centers. Georgia Power plans to turn to some renewable energy to generate that electricity, but for the most part, the utility intends to lean on fossil fuel sources like gas-fired power plants to boost capacity. Those controversial plans, packed into what's called an integrated resource plan, received a public airing during 3 days of public hearings Several clean energy advocacy groups and state regulator staffers urged members of the Georgia Public Service Commission to reject the plan. Commissioners are set to vote on the proposal in July. So Georgia Power projects that over the next several years, the growth of data centers will significantly increase the state's electricity consumption, and the company is requesting to add about 9,000 megawatts of capacity by 2031. According to the utility's forecast, data centers will consume about 80% of the new power generated, but some have questioned the accuracy of those projections. PSC staff expert witnesses said this week they're concerned Georgia Power is using incorrect model forecasts. They also say the utility has not provided evidence showing the data centers are likely to materialize at a higher rate than other industries. PSC staff questioned the models used by the company that led to forecasting as much as 13,000 megawatts of peak load growth through 2044. The staff is recommending Georgia Power decrease its load growth projections for data center by as much as 25%. And this is the thing. Advocacy groups have argued that overbuilding the infrastructure could shift the cost burden to ratepayers. And how do we know this? Because it's already happened in other places where these data centers have been established. The change includes, Public Service Commissioner Tricia Pridemore pushed back on the criticism, pointing to a recent rule change that requires data centers and other large companies consuming more than 100 megawatts of energy to cover their full electricity costs. Interesting. The change included a provision allowing Georgia Power to require companies to put up front-end collateral for energy costs over the lifetime of the contract. State regulators would also review any contract for higher energy users. So this require companies to put up front end collateral for energy costs. So they have to pay for their electricity up front. Is that what that's what I get from it.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. All right, thanks for that insight.
Yeah, no, I'm like, this is just like I'm. They're going to be using fossil fuels. They got 3 days of public hearings. This is not. I mean, if we're bewildered by it, I'm assuming the general public is bewildered by it. And you got 3 days of hearings. I don't know. I just don't know. And they're using the water. We know they're going to be using water. The change included a provision to require companies to put up front-end collateral for energy costs. So I'm assuming it's not just power, but it would also, that would include water in that too. I would assume, but it doesn't say that. So this may be a game of Simon Says, where it says, yeah, we'll pay for our electricity up front, but the water. So I don't think they go into that in the article here about the water, but yeah, that's good. That's probably worse than the electricity, because at least with electricity, you can get your own solar panels and stuff for your house, right? You can get off the grid with that, but it's really hard to get off the water, especially if you're in an incorporated area where you have to use public water for that. It seems like they're just what I'm trying to figure out here from reading this is that there's also the problem with the fact that they're going to be using fossil fuels for all this, for this massive data center. It is known that it can have a negative impact on the climate, on the planet, but there's also what can happen to the people in the communities. Who are in areas where a lot of fossil fuels are being used. There's things like asthma and that sort of thing that comes up. And I don't know, 3 days of hearings doesn't sound like enough to me. Yeah,
it really seems like they're trying to just like slide this through, and I don't know what the tax revenue from that's going to be. Maybe the community, they saw dollar signs about tax dollars coming in from that, and so okay, sure, let's try and get this in without causing too much commotion over it. But you could say, yeah, I'm going to pay for all our electricity up front, but when you're not talking about the other natural resources in the area that you're going to use, it seems a bit sketchy, but that's what's happening in Georgia, home of Cop City.
And it's
Georgia's
not the only place where it's happening. I mean, we know that
Right.
these data centers are coming up all over the place, and this particular issue is going to be playing itself out. It'll be interesting to see the coverage for all of these and to find out what kind of deals are being struck and how quickly stuff is being pushed through these local councils.
Right on, right on. Sounds like a scam to me. And speaking of scams, Lainey, yes, I am the king of Segway. It's time for the catch of the day, and we're talking about holiday scams.
We're talking about holiday scams. We're talking about scams in general. It turns out scams they happen all year round, but they tend to go up during the holidays. People are distracted. People are buying things. They're using their cards online a lot. People are communicating with relatives. They're getting stressed out. And I just wanted to kind of go over some of this, not only for the benefit of folks who are watching, but hey, you're at the holiday table. Somebody starts talking about something, and you might have some knowledge to bring to them this time of year. So just to be aware of all that. So I wanted to go into a little bit about what's been happening scam-wise. And we've got the AARP, for example, has a list of, yes, I do belong to AARP. And they do have a list of scams to watch this season. One of them I didn't know about. It's called the card declined scam. And it's a new scam that the Better Business Bureau has uncovered. And so you buy something online, and suddenly you get a message saying, "Well, your card has been declined. We need you to re-enter your information." This is the sort of thing that you're probably going to see when you're working with a small business or what seems to be a small business. Or somebody who has hacked into their systems and they've found out that you've made a purchase through them. They will contact you and they will give you another website and ask you to re-enter your information. Do not fall for that. Because what happens is you end up paying for it twice. If you get a message like that, here's the thing, and this is true in all scams. What they want is your money, and the money is with you right now. So as it happens, it is you who have the power in this situation, and you have what they want. So you can take as long as you want to verify this stuff. So when somebody contacts you and say, "Hey, your card didn't go through, can you re-enter it?" You say, "Fine." You first of all go ahead and check your records. Did it go through or not? If it did, they've got a problem on their end, and you don't want to give up your information again. Number two, say, "Fine, I will check that," but go back to the original website where you made the purchase. And then you're actually going to their website to double check on this rather than a link that they give you. In almost all of these cases, with a lot of these scams, they will give you a phone number. They will give you a website that is not authentic. It's something that they have on their end. They're representing it for being that company or that government agency or that organization. You have to take responsibility for going back and finding the correct website. This is also true even if you look up a phone number, like let's say you're having a man just recently lost $85,000 in this scam. He was having problems with his computer. And he Googled what he thought was Microsoft's customer service number. Well, Google gave him a number, but it turned out that that information was from a scammer that had manipulated Google's SEO into giving up a fake number. He called it up. They seized control of his computer, his banking details. They drained $85,000 from his account. And he can't get it back. Okay. So again, this is one of the things that happens is when anybody gives you a phone number or a website, Don't use them. Go to what you know to be the company's website. You might find that information on a product manual. That's one reason you might want to keep your product manuals. You may find it on the back of a credit card. If it is a government organization, like the IRS or a state tax authority or something, go to usa.gov and you can look up that information there. USA.gov is the government search engine in the United States. And there you can actually, and it's only government websites that are indexed on that site. So just to be aware of that. The other thing that's been coming up a lot, and they've been hitting me up for this, by the way, and it's called the pig butchering scam. And what the pig butchering scam is they are fattening people up for slaughter. That's why they call it pig butchering scam. And what they do is you will get a contact from somebody who seems overly familiar, perhaps. They will often try contacting you through text. I've actually, there's a little folder, we can look at it later. But I've been getting these text messages from numbers I don't know. With these messages, hey, can we get together for coffee soon? Or, hey, are you working from home today? They're not giving a name. I don't recognize the number and I don't respond. But what happens is a person sees that and they type in, oh, who is this? I don't know who this is. Sorry. And the person says, oh, I'm and this. I'm sorry. I said, why? Sorry, I don't think we know each other. I think you have the wrong number. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I apologize, but you seem like a really nice person. It's nice getting to meet you. I'm kind of surprised. You have a very lonely person in some cases at the end of that message, and they start talking to this person. And this person will either do some romance stuff, or they will just be super friendly and say, hey, what kind of work do you do? Yeah, I'm in finance and, I do crypto. Have you ever heard about crypto? And they will slowly gain your trust. They will get your information. They will find out about you. And oh, by the way, when you get targeted, your information is then shared to other scammers.
Yeah.
Like on the dark web. And they will try and get you to invest in something. And they will usually send you to a site that's not even real crypto. But they'll try and do, that's how they get your money. It's called the pig butchering scam. It's very common. It will also happen if you have WhatsApp. Now, in overseas, outside the US, people use WhatsApp all the time. Here in the US, very few people really use it unless they're communicating with somebody overseas. But if you find yourself on WhatsApp and suddenly somebody adds you to a group and acts all friendly, that is a pig butchering scam.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get you to do that. But they can be very, very clever about it, because there have been a couple of times I've gotten these text messages and it sounds like, it would be like somebody I know who has my number, but I don't have them as a contact. But I've learned that if people really want to communicate with you, they will say who it is. Particularly if they don't know if you have them as a contact. So to be very aware of that sort of thing happening, and people are picking up these numbers just about anywhere. And I've got some very good links about this in our show notes. So do check out those show notes.
Yes.
They're very helpful for that. One other thing I wanted to bring up is that we recently just had a major hack, Aflac. Remember the duck?
Aflac. Yes.
Aflac,
yes, indeed.
Yes. They've had over 22 million people just had their data stolen. I think it was back in June, but everybody's is getting the information now about this. Which means, again, you're getting a whole lot of information out there that people have about you. And what they're using, the scammers use, is something called social engineering, where they get a little bit of information. They use that to get your defenses down, where you think this might be legitimate. This might be somebody from calling from a company, a legitimate organization, charity, or company. They have the information about you, and they say, we just need further details. And then they use that information to get you to give up what they want, which is almost always going to be your bank details or credit card details. And that's how they're doing it. And again, now they've had all these organizations, they have all your information, they're taking your information, and they're not, in many cases, they're unable to guard it. And now with this Aflac mess, that's just more details, more information. And when you consider that Aflac is a form of long-term care insurance, there's a lot of details that they could have there.
Yeah, I've heard tale of people getting honeypotted too in these situations where it's like, these women will or men will pretend to have like all the success in crypto, and they tell you how their lives are great and stuff, and they say you should really invest in crypto. I can help you out with that if you don't know anything about it. And they're very sweet and it's very seductive in a way, like you said, especially and not just lonely people, but we're talking like people who want to make a fast buck too. They prey on people who want to get rich quick and are not very smart about trying to get rich the right way, so yes, the phishing scams, that's like email phishing scams. You'll get something, click here, and then then all of a sudden you're taken somewhere where you think it's safe. Also, I also want to remind people from a tech standpoint too, if you're using websites, make sure you use a secure browser, and that's going to have an HTTPS address, right? Yeah. If you're still using HTTP websites and they're not very, they're not important or anything, you still may want to avoid those because they're not secure like the HTTPS sites are.
Other thing also is when you're getting the text messages, sometimes you'll get what we used to call caller ID, but it will say something that looks like a legitimate business. Recently, for example, I got a call from JP Morgan. And, I realized I picked up the phone because I do bank with Chase. It's one of my banks. And I do bank with Chase. And I picked it up. And I thought it was a little strange because usually Chase uses Chase. But I picked it up and it was somebody who said, "Oh, your account, did you know that your account has been compromised?" And immediately I said, "Thank you. I will call my bank directly," and hung that up. There was nothing wrong with that account. But it looked legit, and it looked legit enough that I picked up the phone. Again, you don't have to do anything on this call. The person on the other end of the phone can't do anything to you. And I would also point out the person on the other end of the phone may themselves be trafficked. These criminal gangs, cybercrime and the phone crime is an international racket. And there are these gangs or these organizations that will kidnap and or threaten people, and they will traffic them to these centers to try and get you to do stuff. But you have to. So when it works, not only have you lost money, but it also helps in these particularly evil organizations. Helps these particularly evil organizations to thrive because they're able to do so. And so to keep that in mind. But again, somebody is trying to pressure you, somebody contacts you, they want something from you, you're the one who is in power. You don't have to give anything up, and you can say, "Okay, I'm not taking any action on this until I've made a few phone calls." You hang up the phone. You can call the IRS, by the way, almost never calls people. And I've spoken to IRS people who have told me flat out, we don't call people. Some state tax authorities do, but again, you can always hang up the phone, go and check out the official government website and call them up. Or if you have an actual bill or a statement from the tax authority or any other, the utility company or whatever, call the number on your bill and say, "Hey, did you contact me?" They'll know.
Yeah.
And also, they're not going to get hysterical with you on the phone. If people who actually have any power don't get hysterical on the phone. I remember once listening. This was actually extremely amusing. It was a call center call where the person was basically messing with the scammer, and the
I love the,
scammer
yeah,
said, "You
I
have a
love
dog?"
those.
He said, "Do you have a dog?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I do." He said, "Well, I want you to take the dog and it." And the person starts crashing out. It was actually really, really quite funny. But the people on the other end who are legit, if they're actually working for a utility company, a charity, a government agency, they're not going to crash out.
Right.
So get
Yeah.
them off the phone and then call that agency or that company. That is your best defense against a lot of this stuff.
I've gotten text messages where it's just like, you know, you're the IRS is coming for you if you don't contact us and pay this. And I usually don't text back. And then sometimes if I'm in a mood, I'll text back and go, let them come.
Well,
Let's go.
what amuses me is when I get these threats on text, we're coming out to get you because you have unpaid tolls. I have never had a driver's license in my entire life.
But yet, that
I have unpaid tolls.
yes, there's all kinds of scams like that, and people are so busy with their own lives. A lot of times they're not paying attention, and they'll use, like I said, they either use the honeypot or they use the scare tactics. Was it the carrot or the stick? That kind of thing to try to get you to either to scare you into doing something you don't want to do. But yes, definitely, like Lainey says, check out, if you get a call from a certain, government agency or something like that, yeah, just hang up and call back that agency at the legit number and say, is there a problem? What's going on? And then, then you'll know for sure.
And if your lonely aunt or uncle is at the Christmas table talking about their new boyfriend or girlfriend, who nobody's ever met, you might want to probe a little bit. Hey, how did you meet this person? Oh, well, yeah. And then you can share a little bit of information and protect them. I sadly know of an older person who lost $750,000 in one of those, and was a lonely and sad person with no discernment. And it was obviously a pretty bad situation. So, again, keep your ears open, look after your friends.
Yes. Not just this time of year, but always, because, we have to, that's what we have to do. We have to watch each other's backs now because scams are literally around every corner.
And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is basically being dismantled. So something that might have been of some help to you, it's not going to happen. Banks are not doing anything about it. And so we have to look out for each other. Yeah.
Yeah. No justice, just us, as to paraphrase and use in our own context. Speaking of scary and, frightening tactics, of course, we're talking about ICE here. ICE, baby. And ICE tactics, deportation fears limit access to health care for children of immigrants. Seems like a country that claims to love children will either finance a country that will murder children, or they'll just allow kids to get murdered themselves here, or whatever health maladies these kids have, right? They don't care. They're not American. Trump administration immigration enforcement actions have led to healthcare disruptions for children and adults across the U.S. Healthcare workers report consequences, including children presenting at hospital emergency rooms unaccompanied, delayed diagnosis of life-threatening illnesses, and children as young as 6 presenting with anxiety due to fears of family separation. That's according to new data from Physicians for Human Rights and Migrant Clinicians Network, a survey of 691 healthcare workers across 30 states who work with immigrant populations conducted from March to August of this year, spotlights the preventable health impacts for both immigrant and U.S. citizens. So the survey finds 84% of surveyed healthcare workers report significant or moderate decreases in patient visits since January 2025 executive orders on immigration. So, yeah, you're seeing a lot of these immigrants that are are just disappearing off the streets because they don't want to get picked up by ICE. And that also means taking trips to the doctor too,
Yeah.
that they can't do. Go ahead.
When I found this, I've been reporting on, for example, the kids not coming to school. We've got children not going to school at this point, which I continue to maintain is a bill that's going to come due within a matter of years, when you have children who don't have even junior high school or middle school diplomas. They don't have high school diplomas. They do not have basic skills. They have not had learning disabilities diagnosed and interventions there. But now we're looking also at healthcare issues. First of all, children showing up at ERs alone. Okay, you have a child who is sick or injured who does not have an adult with them. I'm completely flummoxed. And we know what's happening. The child may very well be a citizen, but the child's parent or parents are not citizens. And so, this is what's happening. And I don't know how those children are going to get appropriate follow-up care, in addition to just being the terror of being a child in an ER by yourself.
Right.
Which is hideous. But then you also think they're not getting appropriate medical care, which again can lead to more serious medical conditions. It can also lead to contagion. If the child is not getting antibiotics or not being treated for something, then there's the very real risk of spread. And are we going to start seeing, for example, more of a flu outbreak or COVID or pneumonia because of this? Are we going to start seeing children who are not getting vaccines, not because the parents don't believe in vaccines, but because they're afraid to take the kids to the doctor? Then they can't get into school if the school requires the vaccinations, and they may not be going to school anyways, but then they are unvaccinated, and we could start seeing the spread of other more serious conditions if they're not getting appropriate testing. The ramifications for public health here are enormous.
And depending on the density of your population too, and wherever you're living, that could either just be something moderate or something major too. 26%, about a quarter of clinicians report that immigration enforcement has directly affected patient care. 7% reported ICE or Customs and Border Patrol presence inside of their healthcare facilities. I thought I read something the other day. There was someone was in the bathroom at a clinic or something, and they just burst in the bathroom. They said, "Put your pants up, let's go." Like they were Gestapo or something. It's a nightmare scenario for those people. Providers report that services affected include preventative services, like you said, 43%, chronic disease management at 36%, and mental health care at 28%. And that number, particularly the mental health care, is going to go up with the anxiety in children. That kids shouldn't have anxiety like that, but because they're being constantly worried about being separated from their parents,
they're being hunted.
And they're being hunted. Yeah, if anything, their parents are being hunted, and these little kids are just like, they don't have no idea what's going on anyway.
No.
Cited patient concerns affecting health access included fear of deportation, almost half, and family separation at around 40%. And 27% of surveyed healthcare workers identified fear of benefit enrollment or renewal as a primary barrier preventing patients from accessing care or maintaining coverage. Yeah, because I believe it has to put all your information on there, like including your address, I think, is in those too. And they're just like, we're totally separating from the system and the benefits we could be getting. And maybe that was part of the plan that Trump had, is to scare these immigrants into not using our social services or even just regular doctor services like this that aren't even provided by the government.
Well, and then of course people they become ill, they may die, which this administration has shown that they simply do not care about. Of course, most administrations that we've had have shown that they don't really care about people dying. But also, you can also make people who are immigrants pariahs, or increase their status as pariahs, because they can be perceived as vectors of disease.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're having mental health concerns, and that expresses itself in antisocial ways, well, that just helps to prove the point that the administration wants to make, that immigrants are somehow the problem.
Right. Yeah.
It all feeds into their narrative.
It's not us. It's those immigrants. Those are nothing to see here, but those guys. Yeah, exactly. Well, Trump's going to double down on immigration, despite his approval rating going into the toilet. And I think you're right. He doesn't care. Trump is advancing plans for a significantly expanded immigration enforcement operation in 2026, backed by substantial new funding, even as political opposition mounts ahead of the midterm elections. Those are coming up next year. ICE and Border Patrol secured $170 billion in supplementary funding through September 2029. Following the Republican-controlled Congress's approval of a comprehensive spending package in July. This massive injection dwarfs their combined annual budget of approximately $19 billion, and that was already inflated, enabling ambitious expansion across multiple fronts. Administration officials have outlined plans to recruit thousands of additional enforcement agents, establish new detention facilities, increase pickups from local jails, and contract with private entities. Here we go. This is always a good idea when you get the public sector involved, or the private sector, I should say, to locate individuals lacking legal status. The expansion represents a fundamental shift in enforcement strategy compared to operations this year. So he's doubling down basically on all the nonsense that he did this year, and he doesn't care. Like, he can't get reelected legally unless they change the Constitution again. So he's just going to do whatever the hell he wants to until either the courts stop him or the people stop him. And I don't know how, what the people are doing, but like I said last night on the show, on our Festivus show, these Saturday parades ain't going to cut it. Right. If you're going to shut down Trump, you have to shut down Trump, and you have to shut down his cronies. You have to shut down this illegal government, basically, that's doing all these illegal things. I would think. It's weird, Uncle Warren. I scroll through my social media, and I'm constantly getting bombarded with ads to go work for ICE at a time when people are getting really nervous about jobs with AI and all that. I'm getting all kinds of, Uncle Sam, I need you to come work for ICE. And like, why the heck is this in my feed? So I don't know how desperate they are, but the jobs seem to, this seems to be a growth area. It's no longer plastics the way it was in The Graduate. It's now, they're saying, come work for Homeland Security, and they're talking about working with private contractors. So, this may be perceived by many people as a place where they can go and get a job. Yeah.
And they're expanding that, and they're saying, hey, we're growing jobs.
Well, I mean, the military did the same thing, people who, and they're getting to the point where they're just taking anybody too. It was so funny. What was it that the Texas National Guard was sent to Illinois, and they had to go back because they were out of shape and just, this. Yeah. They're just getting bodies on the street now. And I think it's part of the plan of getting people used to seeing a lot of, enforcement agents of various legal areas out on the streets. They're getting the citizens used to that. So when there is a martial law, it won't be as bad. I say when because I'm not very optimistic about.
Yeah, neither am I. And we
not very optimistic.
hinted on that last night during the Festivus show.
Yeah,
we got that into that.
They had Chuck says they have such a huge budget they don't have to do targeted ads. They just run ads everywhere. Yeah, $170 billion, man. That's a lot of bread. $100 million is a lot of bread too. Apparently, that's the cost of the gemstones that were heisted in the Louvre heist. Remember that? Coming back to this one. Chainsaw armed thieves. Nice. It was Ash from Evil Dead. This is my boomstick. The haul from the Brazen Daylight heist of Paris's Louvre Museum in October has been valued at about 88 million euros or $96 million, with thieves making off with gemstones set into French crown jewels. BFM TV reported on Monday, citing the findings of an investigation. 4 masked men armed with a chainsaw broke into the iconic museum on October 19th and forced their way into the Apollo Gallery, where they cut open a display case and fled with jewelry pieces. The heist lasted just minutes and was conducted without anyone being injured, according to the broadcaster. So the haul included 8,482 diamonds, 35 emeralds, 34 sapphires, and 212 pearls. The gemstones were mounted in 8 jewelry pieces that were part of a temporary exhibition and were on loan to the museum. Oh, on loan. That's terrible. I don't think they're getting them back. Investigators believe the thieves targeted the items for the raw value of the stones rather than the artistic significance of the jewelry itself. Well, it's easier to fence when you got it in pieces instead of in these big ass pieces like that. I don't know about that. I watched too many TV cop shows in the 70s, and I learned that. Police say the operation was meticulously planned. 2 suspects reportedly entered the gallery while 2 accomplices waited outside to assist the escape. The group fled using scooters and abandoned specialized equipment used to reach the display. So I guess on the what was it? There was like that what do they call those things? The accordion thing that moves up. I think they have one. I don't know if they have one of those. Can you just imagine somebody driving down a French street, one of those? Like, Sacre bleu. They're like, hey, oh, hello. Yeah. So so they used scooters, abandoned specialized equipment to escape. Investigators determined vehicles linked to the getaway had been stolen themselves and altered to avoid detection. Very smart thieves. Although in this day and age, do you really have to be that smart to get away with something like that? They got away with it.
Yeah, you have to have balls of steel, is what it really comes down to.
Yeah, not the balls that were on Willie's tree last night, but
no, those I think were made out of tin. But
those were different ones. But yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like all you have to do is just investigate. Right, you just have to do a little digging. All you have to do is put in the time, case the joint, as it were, watch the place, see what the schedules are of people coming and going. If you have the patience, you could do something like that. They did it in minutes. They were like the Marines. They got in and they got out, baby. It was just like boom, boom.
No, that's and I'll also point out that many museums over in Europe are not nearly as protected. The exhibits are not nearly as protected. They have a lot of stuff just out there. I don't think that was the case with the jewels, but in this case, they just were able to do it and get in and out. And the whole thing that really breaks my heart is if they've probably broken up these pieces for fencing. Part of me hopes that it was some rich, multi-billionaire eccentric who wanted the stuff so they could wear them on their private Caribbean island or something like that. Because it breaks my heart to see that kind of craftsmanship taken apart. The crown jewels belong to the French people. And it's there for the pleasure of people being able to see them. And it just breaks my heart because I love beautiful jewelry. And I love looking at it. And that does break my heart. Again, heists are always but we're always so fascinated by heists. So it provides a little bit of a diversion, which is kind of like looking at beautiful jewelry. But I'm interested to see how this develops.
Well, I mean, from a romantic standpoint, it's kind of nice to see that jewel heists are in vogue again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And especially in this situation, nobody got hurt, right?
Nobody
Yeah,
got
and
hurt.
yet,
No.
yeah, I mean, yeah, the pieces are probably taken apart, and yeah, that's a travesty to the artist who put those together.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. It's like you have a Ferrari or something, and somebody steals it, and they end up in the chop shop, and your beautiful car is now in pieces, being sold around the world or wherever. But yeah, so fortunately for me, I've never had bling or fancy cars like that to steal. Although somebody did steal my bicycle one time in New York. I didn't have it properly secured outside. But the fun thing was they didn't know that the brakes didn't work on it. I was still working on the bicycle. So I just imagined them taking the bike, getting on there and riding down the hill and realizing, oh no, brakey don't work. Something's going to break, but it's not going to be the bike. Yeah. So, but that really pissed me off for a second. Then I thought, who would steal a piece of crap? People must be the desperation has something to do with it too, I believe too. So maybe somebody really needed the money, or they were just greedy.
Yeah, but so did you. I mean, you needed the bike too, and that's just why I never buy into this whole, well, this person needed it. Well, yeah, so did the person who owned it.
Yeah, exactly. I think they just wanted the money that they were going to get from it. I don't know how they're going to fence it though. These things it's hot. It's hot stuff. It's too hot. You have to have some real deep web kind of people that don't really care who might want this.
That's why I'm saying that, there may be just some really eccentric multi-billionaire out there who commissioned this. I would think that the gems themselves might even be identifiable, or there are people going to be on the lookout for them, because we know that the gems that went into these pieces must have been quite remarkable, and that gemologists and experienced jewelers would have some idea to be looking out for them. I don't know. It's an interesting story. I look forward to seeing what happens with it. I do hope they're recovered for the French people.
Well, put on your swimsuits. Time to dive into the press pool. And more fun. Guess what? Guess who's trying to buy media? Threat to media and democracy. Trump ally Larry Ellison puts up $40 billion to help his son buy CNN. As if the media isn't bought and paid for already. Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison, an ally of Donald Trump and one of the richest men in the world, pledged on Monday to provide $40.4 billion to help finance his son's hostile bid to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery, the owner of CNN, HBO Max, and other major media assets. The billionaire's personal financing guarantee was announced in a press release issued by Paramount Skydance company headed by Ellison, David Ellison, Larry Ellison's son. Paramount has repeatedly demonstrated its commitment to acquiring WBD. David Ellison said in a statement, our $30 per share fully financed all cash offer was on December 4th and continues to be the superior option to maximize value for WBD shareholders, basically saying it's a lot of money. What are you, stupid? Take the deal. Paramount launched its $108 billion effort to take over Warner Brothers earlier this month, days after Netflix and Warner Brothers leadership announced a proposed merger deal. Antitrust advocates have warned that either merger would be destructive for journalism, television writers, media industry competition, and consumers. Paramount added Larry Ellison's personal funding pledge to its offer after Warner Brothers board members raised concerns about the initial proposal, pointing specifically to the absence of a concrete guarantee of the billionaire executive's backing. Larry Ellison's net worth is estimated to be around $243 billion.
Well, I think we know where those jewels may have gone.
The family jewels.
But they could afford it. I'm saying somebody like that could afford.
They could. Yeah. I mean, this is just another example of media consolidating and not good for journalism, not good for people who consume journalism as well. These, the 1996 Telecommunication Act that allowed people to have multiple news sources like that, news outlets. It didn't used to be. You could only own a certain amount, and that was it. But then in '96, that all went away, and now you're starting to see all this craziness. People buying media left and right, and that's why more people are turning to independent media, because they're looking for journalism again, not punditry and not hackery for the benefit of some company.
And I think they're also looking for connection. That's something that we can do. We have that connection. And I think particularly when you go into local independent media, where people actually have to face the people that they're reporting to every day. I think I was a couple of weeks ago, it was showing that some young people are indicating that they don't trust journalism. They don't trust the media. They do not trust journalists. They think that journalists are making things up, or they're engaging in unethical practices. And my question was, have any of these kids ever met a journalist? And that's something, I think that needs to be considered, and why local media and supporting local, local media, when you can run into that person at the local coffee shop, the library, the church, synagogue, whatever the case may be, and when they actually have to look these folks in the face, that is critical. And to see that, the consolidation is bad enough, but the power that these consolidators have over, say, for example, internet algorithms, or what actually gets reported on, is very concerning, which is why independent, and particularly local independent media, is critical.
It was a horrible idea for YouTube, or Google, I should say, Alphabet, to allow mainstream media on YouTube. Right. I mean, YouTube was supposed to be for individuals, and now all of a sudden you have all this corporate stuff on there, and it's just the algorithm has gone, skews heavily in favor of corporate media on there. And a lot of times the small independent shows get drowned out. It's kind of like with your local hometown paper. You have your reporters in your local hometown paper, but maybe they don't have the bona fides of a somebody at the state capitol's paper or something like that, if it's a major city paper or something like a New York Times or something. And people will tend to probably go with the word of the giant mainstream media outlet, where as opposed to the local person who's trying to make their bones as a reporter, but trying to get this information out that is being covered up in essence.
Do you remember, it was a few years ago, I forget that guy's name, it was that weirdo, I think he was a representative who was a Republican, and he had this really sordid past. He lied about all of his credentials.
The guy, I think he was in New York.
Yeah, I think he was too. And one of the things that he had lied about everything, and it was a complete embarrassment. And it was finally revealed that people were saying, why didn't the Democrats expose this guy? Why didn't the Dems get do their job here? It turned out that he had been exposed by a small, hyper-conservative local newspaper, who had exposed him and said, look, we cannot endorse the Republican candidate because this guy has this terrible background. And but everybody had ignored this tiny little independent paper, and they had no credibility in their community because they were so small. And everybody ignored it. They were looking to the New York Times or whatever, the big papers, and they ignored the fact the guy had been completely dismantled. His story had been dismantled before the election, but they didn't have the amplification for it.
I think both, Chuck.
George Santos, yes.
Santos, Cuellar was too, I believe.
Okay. It was George Santos. It was one of the strangest things I've ever seen.
And he was just laughing about it too.
But I mean, he was thoroughly exposed ahead of time, but because the paper did not have the traction and did not have the amplification, and he was exposed by conservatives.
Right. Well, I mean, mainstream always dogs independent media, calling it fringe, so they put that that propaganda out there to try to turn you off from independent journalism. And, but that's what we're here for, to try to get you turned on to independent media, particularly, in our space, but, and we want to see it across the board as well. And you're starting to see more and more of it. Like I said last night, the information flow used to, back in the day when we had so very few news outlets, they could control the narrative. They could catch the information flow and release what they want. Now there's too many drips. There's drip, 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 and they're playing whack-a-mole, and they hit the TikTok, and then Twitter pops, and then they hit the Twitter, and then Facebook, and then all these other things pop up, and it's just, you can't stop the information. The question is whether you believe the information or not. And I always say, even though that you trust that source, always be skeptical. Always be skeptical in this day and age, because you never know if somebody's being pressured behind the scenes. You don't know if they have their own agenda, their own angle they're working. Unfortunately, like I said, it's trust but verify. Yeah, you got to use your critical thinking skills, is what I'm saying. And people for a long time have stopped doing that, and we need to get back to that. So, more media news for you. Do you watch the Oscars? Are you a fan of the Oscars?
It used to be a bigger thing. I do try to pay some attention to it, but when I found this story, I was taken aback.
Yeah, this is wild. So for years, Oscars been on broadcast television. Now you got to have the internet to watch the Oscars, or in 2029. Interesting year there. That's the year Apophis is supposed to pass by Earth, and we'll see what happens then. So the Oscars bolt from ABC to YouTube starting in 2029. In news that will send shockwaves across the entertainment industry, the Oscar ceremony, which has aired on ABC since 1976, will be moving to YouTube starting in 2029 and will be broadcast by the streamer through at least 2033. So it looks like they got a 4-year deal. That's according to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. The Disney-owned Alphabet Network will continue to air the Oscars along the world's most watched Oscar awards telecast through the 100th edition of the awards show in 2028. After that, the ceremony will be available live and for free to over 2 billion people around the world on YouTube and to YouTube TV subscribers in the United States. I guess that's where everything's going. Everything's going to streaming now. As part of the newly inked deal, YouTube will broadcast not only the Oscar ceremony itself, which generated $150 million in revenue for the Academy during the fiscal year that ended on June 30th, the vast majority via the TV rights deal with Disney, but also a significant amount of related content. I'm assuming that's like red carpet type stuff. Also coming to YouTube, red carpet pre-show and behind the scenes in-show content, the Oscar nominations announcement, the Governor's Awards, at which the Academy presents honorary Oscars, and occasionally the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award. I've got 3 of those on my shelves. And the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award. Don't have any of those. The Oscars nominees luncheon. They're going to have the luncheon, whatever. The Student Academy Awards ceremony, the Scientific and Technical Awards ceremony, Academy member and filmmaker interviews, film education programs, podcasts, and more. Academy Museum of Motion Pictures will also be supported by the Google Arts and Culture Initiative, which will help provide digital access to select exhibitions and programs and help to digitize some of the more than 52 million items that are part of the Academy collection. So, I think, you're starting to see a lot of big events now that, like, for example, Comic-Con. Let's talk about. I used to go to Comic-Con every year, and they'd have these big events in San Diego and New York. And initially, in order to get any sort of access to it, you had to actually attend the events, right? 3-4 days, whatever you wanted to do. Now, in recent years, if you don't go, you can still see a lot of the panels. You can see a lot of what's going on. You just don't have to be there because they're streaming it on YouTube. right? And they're getting those extra interest from people who can't attend these things. And obviously nobody's attending the Oscars unless, you're already a star or rich or something like that. But, it seems like they're trying to do a full meal deal with this, right? You get the Oscars, you get all the peripheries around it, all the fun activities around it in one big full meal deal. As someone who doesn't really care about the Oscars that much anymore, I really don't have a problem with this, but I just think it's just a handing of the baton from the legacy media to the new media. And it just seems more and more things like this is going to happen.
Which means that if you don't have the internet or you don't have access to the internet, you are going to be cut off from what has been a major cultural event in the U.S. And that's what concerns me, is when we start seeing segmentation. How many streaming services do you subscribe to? Did you see that show the other night? Well, I don't subscribe. I get Hulu, not Netflix.
Right.
And in this case, YouTube is more accessible, certainly, than a lot of these streaming services, but you still have to have an internet connection and a device for picking it up. And for me, my concern is that it's a greater, again, you're seeing the gatekeeping on cultural content, news content, which the Oscars is not news, but it is certainly reported on by the news because people are interested in it. And that is one of my concerns. I know that Oscar viewing has gone down in recent years, partly because we've seen so many changes in the motion picture industry, but it's the common culture being split up and divided further and further apart, I guess, that does concern me. One of the things I did want to bring up is that these old school legacy networks are still accessible whether or not you even have cable, much less the internet. And a lot of people don't know that, particularly since we've moved over to digital signals. But for $35, you can pick up an actual antenna that you can screw right into your television set, and you can get all kinds of shows for free, and nobody's tracking you as you're watching them. And by the way, the reception tends to be excellent.
Yeah.
Just for your own edification. And you can actually go, the FCC, and I'll put this in, I'm going to put this in the comments. The FCC actually has an online service where you can put in your zip code and it'll tell you what you can access and how to access it using just your TV and the digital equivalent of rabbit ears.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of television out there that you can watch without being tracked, without paying extra fees, without having the internet, without having cable. And people need to know about this. We talk about cord cutting. This is this is an alternative to paying for internet subscriptions and multiple streaming services.
Yeah, and I think people realize their local options too. They've been on cable for so long, they just got kind of numb to what's actually out there. But yeah, like here in the Chicago area, there's all kind. You have like local TV stations. You have a variety of different, diverse channels too. And you have music. Yeah, Svengoolie. You have television for those of us who are stuck in the 70s and 80s TV, but you also have Spanish language channels. You have Asian channels of various Chinese, Korean, whoever fits, and you also have music channels too. There's music channels that you can get on here. I mean, in the bigger cities, granted, but. I think that's what it is. Yeah. People just don't understand what their local options are, and they feel like they have to be stuck to the cable or to the fiber or whatever it is.
And that's just not true.
To get this.
And in Chicago, you've got public, you've got PBS, you've got the Wisdom, which is the City College's channel. Again, you don't have to have cable. You don't have to have streaming. If you want to protect your privacy, you don't have a lot of money, you still have plenty of options for television all over the country, but particularly in the major cities. But even down here in Arkansas, I mean, I'm just looking over here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 strong signal channels, 3 moderate, and then some of them are weaker, but there's plenty of options here.
Right. Yeah, it's like the old Bruce Springsteen song, 57 channels and nothing on. Yeah, I mean, that's why a lot of people cut the cord. Yeah, they said I'm just getting all this stuff that I don't need when they could just get it, especially when it comes to like severe weather, right? You desperately need a local something that doesn't rely on the internet or your cable.
Yep.
Right. If you can still get it on the antenna and they're still broadcasting, that's the best way to do it. Because especially if you live in an area where there are a lot of bad weather, like say Oklahoma, Tornado Alley down there. Yeah. Of course, you're going to want to have your local available 24/7 because they never know when these tornadoes are going to pop up and destroy a small town.
And you want somebody that you know and trust. And whether it's radio or television, but you want that newscaster also who's very familiar with the weather down there and can talk about the things that the primary concerns. That's absolutely critical. But I remember when January 6th happened and, which was utterly bizarre. But what I wanted was to tune into WGN in Chicago because I wanted a the hyper local network, and I wanted to get their reporting at that time because it was comforting to me at a time of just being utterly confused. So, any case, I wanted to let people know about this. Again, I'm concerned about the Oscars. I just hate to see these institutions, kind of being gate walled off. But on a broader level, I want people to know that you still have the option of over-the-air signals.
Have you speaking of disasters, you ever been in a driverless car?
Yeah, this is just, come on. This is just
okay. Stuck and confused, Waymo, or I call them Lamo, robo-taxis snarl San Francisco traffic during massive blackouts. You know what? I should upload a trombone, the sad trombone, the wah, 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 every time we play one of these, we're doing these stories. So a citywide Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, if you're local, power outage Saturday in San Francisco paralyzed Waymo autonomous taxis, exacerbating traffic chaos and prompting a fleet-wide shutdown and calls for more robust robo-taxi regulation. What? There's no robo-taxi regulation now? Oh, no. Around 130,000 San Francisco homes and businesses went dark due to an afternoon fire at a PG&E substation in the city's south of Market neighborhood. While most P&G customers had their electricity restored by around 9 p.m., more than 20,000 ratepayers remained without power on Sunday morning, according to the San Francisco Standard. The blackout left traffic lights inoperable, rendering much of Waymo's fleet of around 300 robotaxis stuck and confused. As one local resident put it, as cascading failures left groups of as many as half a dozen of the robotaxis immobile. In some cases, the stopped vehicles nearly caused collisions. On a walk across San Francisco on Saturday night prior to the fleet grounding at around 7 p.m., reporters saw numerous Waymo stuck on streets or in intersections, while others seemed to surrender, pulling or even backing out of intersections and parking themselves where they could. A lot of unique road scenarios on the road I can see being hard to anticipate. You just hope your software can manage it. What if we lose contact with all our cars due to a power outage is something you should have a meeting and a plan about ahead of time. Fast Company digital editor Morgan Clendaniel, a self-described big Waymo guy, said Sunday on Blue Sky. So this, I'm not surprised at all that this happened. In fact, I think a lot of us saw this coming, or I was more of the Mad Max, like these Waymos were going to mount like machine guns on them, and they're start, start evil humans must go, that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, seriously. What the other thing that concerns me here is, okay, let's put another scenario in here. Let's say something happens. There is a disaster of some sort that requires an evacuation.
Yeah.
And evacuations are already extremely dangerous. Emergency management officers only use them when there's no other option. Right. They're incredibly dangerous. Now think about one of these things where, say, the power grid fails or their connectivity fails, and now you've got a bunch of autonomous vehicles they have just parked themselves through every possible road outside the city. And now you've got an even bigger problem. Lives will be lost.
Right. Yeah. And you're blocking traffic with these things. People can't get away. And like you said, the evacuation routes and stuff they only announced that as a last resort. I know this is coming from hurricane country down on the Gulf Coast, where even in the small area of South Mississippi, they had to build emergency after Katrina. They had to build more outlets from the coast to do that. And if you have an organized evacuation, you're still going to have some sort of internal chaos. And the last thing you need is a driverless car sitting in front of you, or two of them, or possibly three, blocking an intersection, and you're trying to get the hell out of there.
And keep in mind that when they're doing evacuations, they are oftentimes trying to get professionals into the area to staff hospitals and command centers and that sort of thing. And again, these everything ends up getting blocked by these things. You're not going to be able to get enough tow trucks out there. This was a warning. This was a warning.
Yeah, the robot overlords are coming, and they're arriving on four wheels at first, but eventually they'll end up taking over, I think. Finally, today, we lost our pennies. No more pennies. Pennies from heaven, and somebody made a pretty penny off of the last pennies. You see what I did there? Last U.S. cent sold at auction for $16.76 million. We're worth a pretty penny. See, I stole that joke, but that's fine. That's a universal joke for pennies. To those who argue that the U.S. penny had no value, some coin collectors beg to differ. In fact, they doled out millions for the final penny circulated in the U.S. before the government ended the cents program. Before government ended cents. That sounds funny. Appropriate. Back in November, the U.S. Mint sold 232 3-cent sets for a whopping sum of $16.76 million at an auction last Thursday, hosted by Stack's Bowers Galleries. The 232nd set, containing the last 3 pennies ever made, sold for $800,000. That bidder also got the 3 dies that struck those Lincoln cents. John Kraljevic, director of Numismatic Americana at Stack's Bowers, said it was the kind of auction where you don't know the item's market value until people make their bids. I've been kind of like those NFTs that people make, buying $1 billion for a digital. I've been going to coin auctions for 40 years, and I can tell you I've never seen anything like this, because there's never been anything like this. Stack's Bowers president Brian Candralla said they captured the public imagination like few rare coins we've ever handled. When it was introduced in 1793, a penny could buy a biscuit or a piece of candy. Now most of them are tucked away into jars or junk drawers or in somebody's couch. I would suggest if you find a 2025 penny, keep it, hold on to it. It's probably not worth much now, but later, if it's like the last year the penny was minted, you never know. You might get a few bucks for it. Just saying, trying to help you make some money.
Just saying.
I'm not an economic expert by any means, but I think if you have the last of something, chances are it might be actually worth something. And in this day and age, we got to make money somehow, right?
We do.
Any way we can do
Just
that.
don't
That
go
would
work for ICE. Just don't work for ICE.
Yeah, don't work for ICE. That's a cold job.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's crickets. I should put crickets in here too. That would probably be the best thing. It is Christmas Eve. Lainey, do you have big plans tomorrow for Christmas Day?
I'm going to be with family. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Hopefully the weather's down. What's the weather like down there now?
It's really warm. It was in the 70s yesterday. And I'm walking around. It was like, even in the night, it was like in the, it's like the low 70s, high 60s, walking around in a t-shirt and, it was just awesome. What about yourself, Uncle Warren?
I remember those days when I grew up down south, having 70-degree Christmas days where all we're, you're going outside and, it's just, it wasn't until I moved into New York back in 2009 and we had our first winter snow and it was just like, oh yeah, this is what Christmas is supposed to look like. And oh bless you. And the storefronts and stuff, in New York was all Christmassy and stuff. So it felt like Christmas. And then a few years after that, I was like, all right, I'm done with the snow. I want to go back to the 70 degrees and the short sleeves. I've had enough nostalgia. This is fine. So I will be actually doing a morning extra Christmas special in the morning. That should be fun.
Yeah. I missed my morning extra. How else am I going to know what's going on in the world? If it wasn't for you, Uncle Warren.
Coming back in January, and the secret show just kind of, I wanted to take time, put a little more work into these holiday shows. I really enjoy like the Festivus show and doing Christmas and doing a new. I don't know if we're going to do a New Year's Eve show. I haven't decided yet. It just depends. But if we do that, that should be fun too. And then, like I said, the shows will be back. The regular shows will be back in January. So, but in the meantime, I hope everybody else is, watching this show and watching other of our friends' shows here, like the Willie Bragg Show, Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show. All our friends that have shows. Be sure to check them out and support. Supports our friends and your friends too. I'm sure they're your pals too. Maybe not. Maybe you don't like them, but support them anyway. Just for me, please. Please.
They're fantastic. We had, last night was just so much talent and fun in that room, and it was better than I could have ever imagined. You really did a great job, Uncle Warren.
I just said, I just sent out invites. Everybody else came in, they told their stories and aired their grievances, and I thought it was a good time. Well, I like doing group shows like that and getting different perspectives and getting different people on like that. We'll do it again soon. I'm sure probably have some folks on here coming in the coming year too. I really enjoy having guests on this show as well.
So do I. Looking forward to that.
Any final thoughts? Anything you want to share with the kids before we get out of here?
I want to wish everybody a happy holiday. We will be doing the show next week as well, which is what is it? New Year's Eve, isn't it?
That will be a New Year's Eve show for sure.
It will be a New Year's Eve show. So let's see. Yeah, it will be. So cool. We'll be there, and I look forward to seeing everybody then. I do wish everybody a safe holiday. Enjoy yourself. Spend time with your family if you can, or with your friends, or go out and eat a succulent Chinese meal.
Get your hands off my Christmas tree. Sorry, I'm paraphrasing. I don't want to be naughty. So Merry Christmas to everybody for tomorrow. Come see me on the morning extra tomorrow. This show will be back next week for New Year's Eve. More goodness for you. Thanks everybody in the chats on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and on Instagram. Everybody that's watching this show now or watching it in the future, we appreciate your support.
We do very much.
Our link tree is down below. You can see it scrolling there. Linktree /TheUndercurrent. We have our Undercurrent for you, Substack too, for the show notes. Be sure to check all that out.
Good to see you, friend. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. What's up, Fred? Merry Christmas to you. Oh, hanging out on Facebook. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, happy holidays to everybody.
Big plans for this show. We appreciate everybody's support. We want to make it better for you, and we're going to do it next year. Thank you again. That's my New Year's resolution, by the way.
Right on. Yes, more information for you, more news you can use, and as always, I always say, don't join the cults. Be your own person. Use your critical thinking skills because we need them now more than ever. So thanks, everybody. We appreciate you. I'll see you in the morning. See you next week with this show. Peace out. Word to the mother.